The Maria Valtorta Readers Group, Bulletin number 122, June 2026. Lord, I do not ask you for the glory of your visions, but for the grace to love you more and more. Notebooks, 1944, page 439. Publish this work as it is. Whoever reads it will understand. Pope Pius XII. Maria Valtorta's mission. Jesus says, "Do you know what you are doing by writing? My will. The will for the mission I want you to perform. Even if a single soul, one alone, were to find the way through this effort of yours willed by me, the exertion, which to human sight seems inhuman, would be justified." Notebooks, 1943, page 229. Editorial. Bulletin. In this edition, a new Maria Valtorta Readers Group project will be revealed with the backstory which led to promoting Maria Valtorta to a younger audience and to introduce those who want to read about the life of Jesus and Mary without the description. The supplement. The theme is evolution. From these excerpts, Jesus explains why evolution is a pseudoscience, and he gives a deeper reason why God destroyed the world with the flood. Unlike the themes of other supplements, where one reads for enjoyment or interest, this edition should be read slowly for understanding and enlightenment, which further encourages people to go back to the Bible and read Genesis with fresh eyes. For a commentary on some of these passages, I also recommend Giovanna Bussolini's book, Original Sin and Its Consequences, from the writings of Maria Valtorta, available as a free ebook on our website. In fact, the following joke shows a truth revealed in the supplement on evolution. A little girl asked her mother, "How did the human race appear?" The mother answered, "God made Adam and Eve, and they had children, and so that is how all mankind was made." 2 days later, the girl asked her father, who explained, "Many years ago there were monkeys, from which the human race evolved." Confused by the conflicting answers, the girl returned to her mother, who explained, "Well, it's simple. I told you about my side of the family, while your dad was talking about his." Please note that the bulletins and supplements are available in audio format in the Newsletter Archive tab. It is a one-take recording with the newsletter on the screen to avoid editing. Growing in Faith, Catherine. The glossary request. I am underwhelmed, but so grateful to the 2 people who responded to my request for help in expanding the glossary from just the writings of the poem or the gospel editions to Valtorta's 7 other writings. In fact, as I was putting together the supplement on evolution, there were a few words that certainly needed defining, as you will see. Therefore, if you are reading any of the 7 other writings, please send me an email, catherine@valtorta.com.au, with any word or list of words that are not readily familiar in English. You do not need to have completed the whole book. Your contribution, however small, will help many other Maria Valtorta readers. The Maria Valtorta Readers Group monthly anniversary releases. On the 12th day of each month, a new anniversary item is released. As with all our material, free ebooks, guides, maps, newsletters, audios, and much more, we invite you to visit our website, valtorta.com.au, and access whatever will further nurture your love for Maria Valtorta's writings. Here is a summary for the quarter. March 2026, the audio of newsletters. April 2026, The End of Times Prophecies from the Word of God through the Writings of Maria Valtorta, a Maria Valtorta Readers Group publication. May 2026, Mary Magdalene, From Sinner to Saint booklet, a Maria Valtorta Readers Group publication. Supplement number 123, September 2026 request. As October ends the 60th anniversary of the death of Maria Valtorta, it would be appropriate that this newsletter consist of selected passages from readers worldwide, demonstrating their love for and appreciation of Valtorta's writings and God's gift to us all. To contribute, all you have to do is select a passage, the equivalent to 1 page or less. Tell me the edition, poem or gospel, the volume number, chapter number, and the pages where the passage begins and ends. I will transcribe it for you. Your name and country. No effort or creativity required, just a passage that has touched your heart to share with others. The launch of a Maria Valtorta project and the backstory interview. In October 2025, Italy held its annual Maria Valtorta conference. One of the guest speakers was Professor Bruno Perrone, who owns a publishing house and is the president of the Maria Valtorta Association in France, with a very impressive website. During his presentation, what immediately caught my attention was his gentle manner, his sincerity, and his love for Maria Valtorta. It was his comments about modern life that inspired me to act on making the Maria Valtorta Readers Group newsletters available in audio format. However, he also revealed that he was trying to reach a younger audience through graphic novels based on the writings of Maria Valtorta. This captivated me enormously because many readers have often asked whether there was any material available for young people, and until this point in time, I had not been aware of any in English, let alone in French. I contacted Professor Perrone, Bruno, and I humbly asked whether I might be granted permission to translate the graphic novels from French into English. He kindly and enthusiastically granted me the rights to do so for Australia and New Zealand, after which I interviewed him on the subject. He explained that the idea had been inspired from above, back in 2010. While reading Maria Valtorta's writings to his daughters, aged 6 and 8, he encountered a problem. The descriptions were so detailed that his little ones would fall asleep before the end of each chapter. It was then that he realised an adaptation of Maria Valtorta's work for children was needed, fueling his desire to launch a collection of high-quality graphic novels. Bruno needed to assemble a team, and this happened through a series of what he described as providential encounters. Firstly, a retired schoolteacher friend who had spent 20 years teaching primary school agreed to select suitable material for young age groups. She devoted herself to this task for almost 10 years, right up until her final breath. Secondly, Luke Bortz's mother was looking for a place in Bruno's flat to store a cabinet. Her son accompanied her to help carry the piece of furniture, and during their conversation, Bruno discovered that Luke was a writer who was deeply immersed in biblical culture. Bruno immediately felt he was the right person for the project. Moreover, the fact that Luke also wrote for cinema impressed him further, because Bruno wanted the graphic novels to feel like genuine adventures. Admittedly, his talent came at a price, but Bruno revealed it was worth it. Thirdly, when it came to the artwork, Bruno had 7 artists compete by illustrating the same page. In the end, 2 excellent candidates remain. To decide between them, Bruno remembered his grandmother's advice: the soul is seen in the eyes. Bruno Martineau's characters possessed eyes that truly spoke, and so he was chosen. This aspect of the project was also extremely costly, because unlike a picture book where an artist may draw only one illustration per page, a graphic novel can house anywhere between 1 and 10 panels on a single page. Financing the project required a tremendous leap of faith. Bruno explained that he did not have a cent to his name when he began this venture. He and his wife decided to pay themselves only the bare minimum needed to survive. They reasoned that if they had a roof over their head, food to eat, and clothes to wear, then they already had everything they truly needed. By saving carefully each month, their publishing house gradually managed to pay for the book of the work of both the artist and the scriptwriter. They took things one day at a time, placing everything in God's hands. It required 20 years of sacrifice, and yet Bruno made it clear that his publishing venture would always prioritize Maria Valtorta apostolate over financial gain. Despite the initial lack of funds, the project continued through what Bruno described as miraculous donations and providential encounters. However, not everything went smoothly. 15 years ago, a Catholic magazine reported that Valtorta had once been placed on the index, and sales plummeted. Bruno suddenly faced a shortfall of €24,000. That night, he spent hours on his knees in tears, his arms outstretched in prayer. He did not rebel. Instead, he thanked God, accepting that if it is his will for the publishing house to collapse, then so be it. The next day the phone rang. A friend introduced him to a woman named Therese. She asked how much money he needed, but out of humility, Bruno hesitated to reveal the amount. When she insisted, he finally answered €24,000. Her response was simple: "It's yours. I will give it to you." This generous woman chose to support the project using the inheritance left by her son, who had died tragically, hoping to honor his soul through good works. Bruno still prays for him every day. Most importantly, Bruno says these graphic novels have transformed the lives of many readers. One of his regular customers, Pierre, buys them to give away as gifts. He once gave one to his baker. Several months later, the baker asked Pierre if he could accompany him to Mass. He explained, "I was feeling down. I wanted to kill myself. Then I came across this graphic novel that I had somehow never managed to throw away. I decided to open it. I read it, and something clicked. Is Christ the answer to my life? That's why I want to learn more." Since then, he goes to church and has found hope once more. Bruno says people of all ages love these graphic novels, from 7 to 77, and that they continue to bear spiritual fruit. He then recounted another touching incident. A father was reading the story of to his daughter, where Margium fulfills his vow of penance by abstaining from honey for a month, in exchange for Rachel's healing, promised by Jesus. The father then asked his 6-year-old daughter, Jean, "And what sacrifice will you make?" Without hesitation, she replied, "I won't play with my dolls." "And who will you offer this sacrifice for?" he asked. "So that Uncle Remy might be converted." Together they agreed she would abstain until Sunday, 7 days of sacrifice. Later, Jean's mother told Bruno that by Tuesday evening, the force of habit almost overcame her. Jean reached for her dolls, but immediately stopped herself, sat upright, and solemnly declared to her mother, "I didn't do it on purpose. I remembered I'm not playing with them until Sunday." A full week of sacrifice for her uncle's soul. How many children's books inspire such a young child towards sacrifice, one of the most difficult disciplines on the path to sanctification? Bruno explained that the graphic novels, 8 volumes so far, have been warmly received throughout France. During the conference, however, he expressed his hope that they might one day reach readers in many other countries and in other languages. Professor Bruno Perronet's journey touched me so deeply that after interviewing him, I was eager to set to work. Of the 8 graphic novels currently available, I have translated 4, and these are now being launched in the hope that they may touch the hearts and minds of young and new readers of all ages. Although each volume requires time and effort, it has certainly become a labour of love, and reading Valtorta's work with images makes the process so uplifting. Each graphic novel is in full colour, is expensive to initially produce and print, and this project continues to place a demand on Bruno because he pays the full cost for the art and adaptation. And yet, he has chosen to continue to only sell the French language volumes to the French market, even though this makes it almost impossible for him to break even. However, Bruno does not want a monopoly on this project. His vision is to find a translator and publisher in each country to ensure that the graphic novels are affordable for the producer to translate and print without any artist or script adaptation fees, and without readers having the added cost of international shipping by being able to purchase them in their own country. So far, several countries have obtained full rights from Bruno. If anyone has knowledge of French and is able to translate and print the comics in their country, please contact Professor Bruno Perronet. Just as Bruno's focus has always been the apostolate over financial gain, this has likewise remained the guiding principle of the Marie Valtorta Readers Group. Marie Valtorta English graphic novels, available only in Australia and New Zealand. Refer to the flyer attached. Graphic novel 1, The Daughter of the Temple, available. Comes from chapters 12 to 14. From Anne's prayer to conceive to the return of Joseph and Mary to Nazareth after their engagement. Graphic novel 2, A New Dawn, available. Chapters 15 to 33. From the Annunciation to the Visit of the Shepherds. Graphic novel number 3, The Hidden Life, available. Chapters 34 to 44, From the Visit of the Magi to Jesus' Farewell to his mother. Graphic novel number 4, Come and Follow Me, available. Chapters 45 to 65, From the Beginning of Jesus' Ministry to the Election of the 4 Disciples, minus the Temptation in the Desert. Graphic novel 5, The 12, available in July. Graphic novel 6, Have Mercy, available August. Graphic novel 7, I'm Thirsty, available September. Graphic novel 8, Have No Fear, available October. For inquiries and sales in Australia, email Catherine at catherine@valtorta.com.au. For inquiries and sales in New Zealand, email Gwen, 10story@extra.co.nz. Reader's Choice and Letter. Reading the poem has brought me closer to Jesus, Mary, Joseph, and all the apostles, says Karen Grieber from USA. The visions opened up my understanding of the Gospels, and instead of characters, they became real people. For me, Peter resonated with me big time. My personality is a lot like his. One of my favourite visions is Jesus sitting with his apostles, and this conversation takes place. Peter says, I am discontented. We were the first, and you did not work a miracle for us. We were the first, and you let a stranger sit beside you. We were the first, and you entrust him, not us, with the task. We were the first, and yet, yes, we seem to be the last ones. Why are you going to wait for them on the road near the river? Certainly to entrust them with some mission. Why them and not us? Jesus looks at him. He is not angry. On the contrary, he smiles as one would smile at a child. He gets up, goes slowly over to Peter, and smiling says to him, Peter, Peter, you are a big old baby. And he says to Andrew, who is sitting beside his brother, Go and take my seat. And he sits beside Peter, clasping his shoulders with his arm, and he speaks to him, holding him thus against his own shoulder. Peter, you think I'm being unfair, but I'm not. On the contrary, it is a proof that I know what you are worth. Look, who needs proof? He who is not yet certain. I knew you were so certain about me that I did not feel any need to give you evidence of my power. Proof is required here in Jerusalem, where vices, irreligiousness, politics, and many worldly things dim souls to such an extent that they can no longer see the light passing by. But up there on our beautiful lake, so clear under a clear sky, amongst honest and good-willed people, no proof is required. You will have miracles. I will pour torrents of graces upon you. But consider how I valued you. I took you without exacting any proof and without finding it necessary to give you any, because I know who you are. You are dear to me, so dear and so faithful. Peter cheers up. Forgive me, Jesus. I burst out laughing when I read that passage because Peter is so real. All of us share those thoughts or feelings at times. When I went to Medjugorje for the first time, I had just started to read the books, maybe halfway through the first volume. At the time, I was completely unaware of the controversy regarding the books. My roommate on that trip, Elaine, specifically made the journey to Medjugorje for the sole purpose of asking Vitska, one of the visionaries, if Our Lady had said that the books were true. On the day that our group went to see her, Vitska spoke and then prayed over us. Then everyone was dismissed to go to Mass. When Elaine became aware that we weren't going to be able to talk to Vitska, she was very upset and wanted to leave. I grabbed her and wouldn't let her go. She was angry with me for not letting her leave and asked why. I said, I didn't know, but she shouldn't go yet. A few minutes later, someone from our group came up and said that they asked Mickey, our tour guide, to ask Vitska her question regarding the poem of the man God. We watched Mickey go to talk to Vitska and come back to us. Mickey reported that Vitska said that it was okay to read the poem of the man God. Elaine said, No, I want to know if Our Lady said it was true. We watched Mickey make his way through the crowd back to Vitska and talk to her. We saw Vitska adamantly nod her head, yes, and we watched her watch Mickey as he came through the crowd back to us. Mickey told us that Vitska said that Our Lady said the poem of the man God was true. Editor, for your information, this passage selected is in the graphic novel, Volume 4. Another letter by Gerard Beer, U.S. Air Force, retired. St. Mary Magdalene, the poem of the man God in tradition and history. In the year 2000, I was on a short deployment to Israel in southern France. Having read the poem of the man God, I was aware of the relics of the skull of St. Mary Magdalene at St. Maximin's Basilica, Maximinus in Latin, as referred to in the poem, in St. Baume, France. However, what piqued my interest was the connection of what I read in the poem and what I witnessed in France. In the last newsletter, supplement number 121, there was a passage on Mary Magdalene, the Green Martyr, which can be read in full in Notebooks 1944, pages 252 to 259, referenced as the Hermetess. This prompted me to respond, so the purpose of this article is to convey that I personally saw, with reading the poem as well as the historical data and information recorded in the Lives of the Saints. In the Lives of the Saints, Volume 2, it states, according to the legend, Maximinus, one of our Lord's 72 disciples, left Palestine after the Ascension with St. Mary Magdalene, St. Martha, St. Lazarus, St. Mary Clopas, St. Mary Salome, and other holy persons, and came to evangelize province in the southeast. Maximinus made his headquarters at A, of which he became the first bishop. When St. Mary Magdalene was dying, she was carried from the cave of St. Baume, in which she had lived, to a spot called Le Saint-Pilon, where she received viaticum from Maximinus. At a short distance from Le Saint-Pilon stands the Church of St. Maximin, which was built to replace an older church with the same dedication and to enshrine the reputed relics of these two saints. The body of St. Maximinus was translated or transferred in 1820 to Aix, of which city he is the principal patron. But the head of St. Mary Magdalene is still preserved in the ancient crypt of St. Maximin. Additionally, an account of St. Mary Magdalene and St. Martha, as well as Sidonius, seems to have been originally suggested by the bringing of certain relics to Adat, near Ballon in Auvergne, in central France. This comports well with Maria Valtorta and her visions that Lazarus was the brother of Mary Magdalene, as well as Martha being her sister. The modern exegesis disagrees on this, but the early church believed this well into the Middle Ages. Popes and kings visited the site of St. Baume throughout the Middle Ages. A more detailed history is available from Edith Viette and her book, St. Mary Magdalene, Her Life and Times. As those who have read the poem know, Maximinus was a steward of Lazarus' estate in Bethany, and Sidonius, the man born blind, whom Jesus healed, worked for Lazarus. Maria states in the poem, Volume 5, Chapter 645, that Lazarus, Mary, and Martha left their house in Bethany to evangelize as Jesus ordered, and St. Peter understood their mission. The poem does not state where they went, but history and tradition complete this information. Therefore, southern France, particularly St. Baume, is where they evangelized, and the Dominicans are the custodians of this holy site. Finally, after spreading the word of God for a period of time, St. Mary Magdalene withdrew to the cave overlooking the Mediterranean Sea for 30 years. May these holy saints intercede for us. Attached is an image, Gerard included, of an early painting, fresco, of St. Mary Magdalene from Edith Viette's book. And here is a link also provided by Derek Dayo, USA, on Mary Magdalene's skull. Letter from Eva Richter, Australia. It must have been around 1988 when a friend first mentioned the poem of the man God, saying that when asked by the children, Our Lady of Medjugorje said to keep it next to the Bible. She lent me her book. Intrigued yet skeptical, I began to read. By the time I had devoured 240-odd pages, I was totally convinced that I was reading something special, something holy. Unfortunately, up until that time, only 4 books had been published, and it was a real penance to have to wait patiently for number 5. Even though we already knew the story, I had to wait some years to find out how it unfolded in God's way. I always wish that Mel Gibson would have known about it and based his movie, The Passion of the Christ, on Valtorta's work. The first time through the work, I read it rather quickly, thrilled at all I was learning. I lent out my copies to anyone who was interested. There are so many pearls in the work: the miraculous birth of Jesus, the awesome generosity of Jesus at the wedding feast at Cana, the time when Jesus says, "The Eucharist is my heart," and all the other wonderful Eucharistic explanations. Of course, the next time I read it much more slowly, the first time like a hungry lion, the next savouring every word. It answered so many questions, and even questions I never thought to ask. In 1999, before Book 5 was finally released in English, I was blessed to be on a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, to be where Jesus walked, eating the ancestors of the fish he ate, and seeing where he was born and died. Such a privilege. In 2004, my husband and I visited Florence to pay our respects and give thanks to Maria Valtorta at her crypt. I owe her so much. If you want to fall in love with Jesus and Mary and our Catholic faith, just read Valtorta's work. Sunday Gospel Transcripts Reminder. The audios and transcripts of the Novus Ordo Modern Mass are available on our website or on the free Maria Valtorta app. The transcripts of the Roman Rite, the traditional Latin Mass, are also available for your convenience. These will no longer be emailed separately and quarterly. The Maria Valtorta Readers Group. This group is an online non-profit organisation which retails publications of Maria Valtorta's writings and offers other supporting materials on its website to its members and to other interested persons. Newsletters are sent every 3 months. The material in this publication is not intended to represent the opinion of the Church. The editor affirms submission to the official judgment of the Church regarding the information contained therein. This is the end of the reading of Maria Valtorta's supplement number 122. Thank you for listening.